everyone.
Hey Neha, what's up?
Really good to be part of the panel. So exciting.
Yes, I think all of us are really excited.
I'm going to take a picture.
Great. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of Lxme UnStereotype. Thank you for coming on board to UnStereotype with Lxme. For everyone who's joined us today, Lxme is India's first financial platform exclusively for women. And we have created this entire month-long campaign called UnStereotype with Lxme, and we have some incredible women with us who are going to be sharing their stories. There's going to be lots of learning, and we really want to help all young women out there to sort of help them in their personal and professional growth. So do check out the lineup. Today is the first day, and we're kickstarting with these amazing, beautiful, gorgeous, successful women right in front of me. So yes, guys, all your highs are done. Let's begin. All right. So I'll do a quick round of introduction. We have Neha with us, who is the co-founder and CEO of Fitternity. We have Manasi, who is an advocate and also the founder of Pink Legal, which is the first platform in India exclusively for women's rights and laws. We have Navya Nanda, who is the co-founder of Aara Health, which is a health tech startup and also the founder of Project Naveli. We have Masoom Minawala, who is a content creator and blogger. Alina Gandhi, who is the CEO and founder of Social Media Dissect. Devika Patel, who is the founder of Clarity Labs and also Bombay Legal. And Kanta and Ria, for some reason, I can still see you. Do you want me to sort of introduce you all too? All right. Okay. So I think I'm going to kickstart with, of course, today we're going to talk about the money mindset of the young women entrepreneur. And I think I want to start with Neha. Neha, your journey has been quite incredible. You started, I think you were working as a consultant when you decided to sort of, start your own business startup, basically. So what was that journey like? And, how did you know that, okay, I'm prepared to do this now?
Yeah, so Tashi, really, really interesting question, and honestly was not at all prepared. So to everyone sort of listening in, right? It's of course a journey that you will sort of undertake, and you will eventually realize that you had the strength and the courage to do it. But when you're sort of starting out, it's of course super super tough, right? So I think my journey has been sort of simple. I felt myself that there was a need for a fitness marketplace that needs to exist in India, and I was just surprised that how is there no fitness marketplace, right? So what I did was, sort of basically thought about the idea, thought about the fact that okay, this is a large market size, this is something that you can actually build in India. And I think one thing which we sort of spoke about earlier in our interactions was, ensuring a safety net. So I basically asked my, boss, saying that, would you actually give me a job after 2 years if something was to not work out, right? And I sort of just ensured that, yeah, while there is sort of, go all out and do sort of, just have plan A. I think what really sort of did work, at least gave me that sort of mental strength, was to say, okay, I have a plan B if this does not work out, right?
Right.
And yeah, and the fraternity journey has been crazy. We've sort of raised 3 rounds of funding. We recently did a large partnership with CureFit, where fraternity got acquired by CureFit. So I think yeah, that's sort of a quick roundup about my journey and experience.
And even in those 2 years, you knew that, okay, if things don't work out, I sort of, you had that emergency fund in place that you could sort of fall back on. You
Yeah,
had that cushion.
yeah, I mean, while you love the aspect and the passion about entrepreneurship, which is go all in and don't think about
Right.
anything else, but I do believe that women inherently don't think about financial empowerment as the first thing that crosses their mind, right? We That's not something that we naturally are sort of good at, right? Finance is a boring subject, don't like maths, always sort of, either it's your father or it's your husband or your brother who's sort of supporting or helping you out with regards
Right.
to financial navigation. But I do really believe that you need to have that safety net, and you need to have that plan B when you're sort of starting out.
Absolutely. And the thing that you're talking about, women not thinking about financial independence or even financial planning as something very upfront. I think it's because it's socially ingrained, right? I think growing up, because we are from a patriarchal society, we've seen our fathers taking care of the money. Women are great at budgeting, but when it comes to growing money and managing and planning, we've always seen the father of the house or, the husband take care of it. So talking about managing money while you're starting up, Devika, what are your thoughts on business and personal finance and keeping both separate? Like when you started work on Clarity Business Labs, right? How did you deal with it, and how did you ensure that, okay, you know what, this is my personal, this is my personal kitty for all my financial goals, and this is what I'm going to be investing for my business, for starting my business?
I think, firstly, every business that started in 2020, you have to take all the rules and then throw them away because all the plans, every plan kind of went topsy-turvy, right?
Right.
So I think I'm going to be very honest and be my plans also did go kind of topsy-turvy as well. But I'll tell you where I was at. So in 2019, I had decided that, okay, 2020 is my year that I'm going to start out. I knew I wanted to do something that's going to serve the needs of the entrepreneur in the market, and I knew that this is the direction I was taking. Super confident about it. I had obviously spent a few years doing this, so I knew what I was. I had that confidence that I'm going to walk into this and it's going to be quite clear, and I know exactly how to navigate this kind of a business. I was also getting married in 2019, and for some really weird childish kid fantasy I had is that I want to actually substantially fund a part of my wedding. Okay, this happened because I think on some relative's wedding when I was a kid, I remember going and this girl was, I remember it was in Crystal Room Taj, and this girl in this lehenga, and it was at the reception, and then after she finished eating, she was signing checks, and I was like, wow, that's really and for some reason, I remember I was in the 8th or 9th standard, and I was like, I really think I want to be able to do that. Obviously, my parents thought it was ridiculous, but obviously they let me have my way to a large extent. So my wedding was largely funded by me and my husband itself. So we were hosting. So this was a big expense that I was taking on personally. It was a luxury I was taking on. I didn't have to take this expense on, but I wanted to do it because it was a whim. So I had planned for that expense, and I had planned for my business expense that I was going to invest X amount into my business. But I think what went awry in 2020 is that I didn't really have any backup, in the sense, I'm not talking about savings and investments. I didn't actually have a contingency fund of my own, where I felt that, okay, if things don't work out, then I will go and dip into my contingency fund. Instead, what happened was, say if I wanted to start up my company in March, I remember I had to then dip into what I was going to invest into my business, which kind of throws a lot of things off, right? I mean, of course, the circumstance of 2020 was extremely unique. But that being said, I think it's just a lesson for anybody else who is looking to start up and is saving, that corpus of money. You have personal whims and everything, but I feel when I look back, I'm like, yeah, maybe I should have been a bit more prudent and kept that money aside for, if things don't work out. I came in with so much confidence that, I have it under control. But life's going to keep throwing curveballs at you. So I think it's not just about keeping your personal and your business separate. I think it's also about the fact that as an individual, when shit hits the roof, pardon my French, they might just merge, but you have to keep a contingency fund as well. You have to factor in that things might not work out, and that you can't always compromise on your personal expenses. At the same time, you can't compromise on the fact that you're looking to start a business.
Right. And you should never probably go all in to set up your business and use that fund. That should always be separate.
I was also quite prudent in the sense I wasn't starting very high cost business. I wasn't buying inventory and I wasn't investing a tremendous amount of money, and I knew kind of what was up. So it was, I got pretty lucky in comparison to maybe other people in a different situation. But yeah, I think the lesson for me was not just about personal and keeping those two separate. It's just that you have to factor in that things can go wrong, and you have that foresight.
Right. Masoom, I think every young woman in India aspires to live Masoom Minawala's life, right? I mean, just casually skiing in Switzerland in a sari, because why not? I think I have two questions. Sorry?
Gotta do it for the content.
Did it for the content.
It's our business at the end of the day.
I think that's what people don't see, right? And there comes my question. Two questions. I think first of all, how did you start your journey? And a lot of our viewers actually ask these questions, right? You started pretty young. I think it's been almost 8 to 10 years
Yeah.
since you started blogging, and that time it was pretty nascent. So how did you start your journey? And second, there are a lot of women today who want to take up this as their full-time profession and make a living out of it, right?
Yeah.
So basis your experience, basis your personal journey, how should they go about setting up and also keeping the finances in place, that how much are you investing and how much money are you making out of this profession?
Sure, sure. So to dive into my journey, I actually started blogging when I was 18. I was doing an internship at French Connection Calvin Klein, and they gave me a research project on bloggers. Bloggers didn't really exist then, except like Amitabh Bachchan. He pretty much had a blog at that point, but literally, like there were like three other fashion bloggers in this space, right? And like Twitter was all the rage. So this is like, like really hit the rewind button. And um, I don't know. I just kind of heard about bloggers. I went home from my internship at like 7 p.m. I was up all night. I learned how to code. I learned HTML. I set up my own blog, which was called stylefiesta.blogspot.com. So it was like a double domain because I obviously didn't want to buy my own domain at that time. And that was the only thing that was free. And, I begged my grandfather to buy me a professional camera, and then and a tripod, and I would put the camera on the tripod. I would keep wearing stuff from my wardrobe and just take pictures of myself. And then I would post those pictures of myself on my blog and write how I felt about that outfit and why I put it together and where I would wear it, which just sounds so basic in 2021. But trust me, that time it was like all the rage, right? That, oh, like I'm in the mood to wear this today, or this is what I'll wear to brunch, and this is what I'll wear to shopping. And um, people loved it. And, whether they loved it or they hated it, it didn't matter because they were coming to the blog. They were
Getting
driving traffic.
attention.
And it was just like, it was this topic of like conversation, topic of gossip, topic of like, what the hell is she doing with her life? Like, I mean, okay, she should probably be studying to begin with. But secondly, like, why does she think it's cool to take photos of herself, like in random parts of her building and random parts of her apartment? And um, basically I was really enjoying myself, and it was something super new, and I just loved it because it was a combination of so many of my passions: fashion, photography, writing. Just being able to like express yourself through the internet was really really exciting. And Facebook was, all the rage as well at that time. So I used to post my blog on Facebook, and then my friends would see it, but then my friends would share it with their friends if they found it like useful, or they just found it like, something to talk about, which actually really really helped my business. So I love that they did that. And a couple of years, like 1 2 years, I just kept doing it because I was really enjoying it, but I was studying at this point, so it was just a hobby. uh, but first movers advantage, it picked up, brands started coming to me, but unfortunately nobody wanted to pay. Right, they all were like offering me gifts and like perfumes, in exchange for me blogging about them.
Right.
And I've always been very ambitious, so I always had very clear financial goals, and I didn't think I could take up blogging full time to achieve those goals because I just didn't see it having enough potential as a market. um, so I launched my own e-commerce company, and what I was basically doing was using my readers from my blog and converting them into customers. So basically just taking my readers and I'm giving them a product which is really fashionable,
Right.
curated for me, so it's really easy for them to make that conversion. um, in about 2017, I put that business on auto run and moved to full-time blogging, because I saw that there was massive scope in the industry. And through this whole time, right, like through college, through like going abroad to study, through launching my own e-commerce business, through like killing myself over that business, I never stopped blogging. So I always continue to create and share that content. And I think that really, really paid off because I truly believe that consistency will pay off way more than perfection ever can. I think you just have to keep going at what you're going at. And yeah, so I've been blogging full time now for about 5 years. I absolutely love what I do. And I think it's a fantastic job. I think it's a fantastic business to have. So I know there's probably a lot of aspiring content creators with us who've probably asked this question, right? And I'd say that it's a great business for numerous reasons. Uh, One, it has no overheads. So to begin with, it doesn't require a large investment. Today, blogs and websites like don't even really exist. So Instagram is pretty much a reigning platform. Instagram is free to use. You don't have to buy clothes to talk about fashion, because firstly, fashion is not the only category you can take up, right? You can basically, blogging is about being an expert of a certain category. And you'll always be an expert if you love something. And if you really love something, you probably have some part of it that you can use to create the content. So I would say that it doesn't require much investment. It doesn't have any overheads, even in the long term. And I think it's a great business. It's a very easily like good looking balance sheet, if I might say so.
Right.
So yeah, I'd say definitely go for it. Find your niche.
And when did you actually get your first paycheck from blogging? Like, how deep into were you?
3 years in.
3 years in.
3 years in, it was 10,000 rupees. I felt like it was like $1 million. I was just like over the moon. But I was also like 21. So it was incredible.
I think that's also very important to know, right? Because I think today you see so much of content out there, and I think it's very easy to get blinded by the fact that it's very easy for me to reach there, but it takes a lot of time and consistency, like you said. So,
No, I'm so sorry to interrupt, Tashi, but I actually don't think it takes that much time anymore. And that's the beauty of the internet today, right? You can actually, I mean, it's taken me 10 years to get to about 1 million followers, but trust me, I feel like people could do it today in a month or 3 months, because that's how rapid and dynamic the internet has become. Like, simply, if we
right,
talk about like Instagram Reels, which is a new feature that's been launched by Instagram as a platform is pushing creators so dedicatedly via Reels that for like creators of 20,000 with 20,000 followers have Reels that hit like 1 million, 2 million views. Because they're kind of using like the TikTok feature of like just pushing content at random. So your scope to actually grow quicker is so much more now.
and do you think it would be easy to balance it with a full-time job?
Um, so I think blogging requires a lot of investment, but not necessarily financially.
Correct.
It does require a lot of time, energy, patience, strategy. You really need to know what you're doing, because there's too much competition out there. I mean, frankly, like if just amongst the six of us, we probably know like 1,300 bloggers like on our in our phone book. So I think it takes a lot of investment qualitatively to really understand what we're doing. But um, like Neha pointed out, that I think if you're looking to do this full time, it's a job that I would highly recommend, and is easy and is highly profitable, and the potential to drive strong revenue is great. But I do feel like you need to first test the ground to actually understand whether this is something you enjoy. Because people come and tell me they love my life, they want the Masoom Minawala life, but you don't know what my life is, and you never will through my Instagram. And that's the beauty of the internet. It's so easy to like just sugarcoat everything.
Right.
And I mean, that's my job. I don't even mind it, but it's just that you have to, like you were talking about that emergency contingency fund, you kind of also need to play the field with like being a content creator, being an influencer, and see like, do you actually enjoy every aspect of it? Because trust me, it's really not about just taking the photos.
Yeah, you actually mentioned that that's the least interesting part of your job, which is actually shooting the content. You actually enjoy the business growth strategy more than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, talk about Instagram. I think we have an Instagram expert here with us, Alina. You started Social Media Dissect when you were 24, right? 23, 24. How has your journey been as a young woman entrepreneur? Were there times when you just felt like it would have been easier if I were a guy? Like I could have had it my way. Were there instances in your journey?
So my journey, actually, to tell you a little bit more about what happened before Social Media Dissect, is I started working at the age of 16, and I had to do a lot of different things to realize that content was something I liked and I enjoyed doing. So I did a lot of different things. I did writing because I thought that's what I enjoy doing, and then I stumbled upon doing a job into social media. I handled some big clients and got a lot of experience from there. And once I was educated enough on what this whole thing is, I started Social Media Dissect as the want to do something more than just either creating content or, being behind a brand. So I started Social Media Dissect as just a page, and let me tell you about a bit of financials over there. I at that point knew that I'm leaving a stable job that is giving me X amount of income, and I'm not going to have anything from a page for a while. So what I did was I did a job and continued running my page for 1 year while I was doing the job. So literally after 7, 8 o'clock, I would go and I would put up posts from what brands were doing and dissect them, and then put up 3 posts and put up multiple stories, and didn't know where this was headed. And 1 year into it, once we started seeing, enough income, is when I left my job to do this full time. Now, during that time, there was, of course, a lot of struggle because nobody would understand what I'm doing, because I was more of curating content. So people would come and ask me, like, why are you putting up what different brands are doing? Like, why are you putting up what XYZ brand is doing, and, like, giving a review? And I was like, I'm trying something different. I'm trying to do like a review on what content is. So when I would put up a brand, I would do like a review, give my thoughts on it, basically say that, this is why this content piece is working, this is why it's not working, and all of that. I was very new. Nobody was understanding why I'm, doing like Eid post, like here's what all brands did on Eid, or here's what all brands did on Diwali. And even for content creators, for example, if I would take something that Masoom has done and be like, here's why this is attention grabbing, because it has these elements. And in the whole beginning time, I had this question where people would be like, why are you taking everybody's content and putting it on your thing? So I knew that it's going to take time for me to have that stand into the industry. And to be able to do that, not only did I do like my job, I also took up brands on the side to do their social media, because I was a social media manager and that's what I know naturally. So I divided the company back then into two halves, where one was the page, which I knew eventually would generate income. I didn't know back then how that was going to happen. So to be on the safe side, because I handle my finances myself, I do it myself, and I also don't take money off of everybody else since I was 18 years old. So since then, I knew that, okay, I need to have that reserve. I don't like to ask anybody for anything. And so I'm going to, make that contingency fund for myself. And by doing it for brands back then, and I had these questions that was so funny from older uncle and older men who would be like, you're so young, how are you going to handle all of this? Because I remember back then I was handling this St. Regis Mumbai, which is the hotel in Bombay. And when I would meet the general managers and the managers, they would be like telling everybody, like, don't you think she's very young? And I had to go pitch to like 9 of them in all of their suits, and I'm wearing something fashionable over there. And they were like, we don't know if you are going to be able to handle it. That's literally what they said to my face. So that was one of, the peaks of my journey, where if somebody tells me that I can't do something, I think I have to do it. And this other time where, I didn't actually reveal myself on the page for a year. So nobody knew that was me taking up the brand, and the people who knew the brand would be like, why is she kind of dissecting us? And the funny part was that everybody on my DMs and on my comments would be like, hi, sir. Hello, sir. We want to get in touch with you, sir. Hey, bro. Hi, bro. And I'm like, why isn't it striking anybody that there could be a possibility that there is a girl behind this? Nobody thought. And when I did actually reveal myself, I had so many DMs that people were surprised that it was me. And that's when the angle of me being out there as a businesswoman came in the front. I was like, I'm not going to be the one behind. there are a lot of people that do that great. They are behind the brands and they're working behind agencies. But I was like, I'm going to go out there and talk about my struggles and talk about this, because there are other women that need to do this and see this and learn that, we are more than capable of doing everything that men in the agencies can. So in a nutshell, I can say that's the journey.
And I think also the company that you're building also is very women-led, right?
Yes, we have a lot of female employees.
I think that's great. Uh, Navya, I think you also started your journey. I think all of us here started. You guys started your journeys very young. Navya, coming from the family that you do, it's pretty well known. Do you get to hear this very often, that why entrepreneurship and why not acting? Because we did. I think a lot of our viewers asked this question, like, why did you choose entrepreneurship?
I get asked this question a lot all the time. And I think my answer to it has always been that it would be too easy if I just became an actress. That's something that everyone expected me to do, or has always since I was a kid been like, she's going to follow her family's footsteps. But I think for me, I think it's like when you come from such an overachieving family, where you have this really great, incredible legacy to live up to, it's really difficult to make your own mark and set yourself apart and be known for something that's specific to you. And I think something that I was very clear on from a very early age was that I wanted to be known for my own successes. Like, I was really frustrated, and still to this date get really frustrated when somebody introduces me as so and so's granddaughter or so and so's daughter, because I do have my own identity and I do have my own life, and I never wanted to be somebody who would live under the shadow of someone else's success and achievements. And I think branching out and doing something so drastically different to what my family does, I think was a way in which I felt a lot more confident, because now I'm sitting at a panel where I'm being recognized for something that I started and I created on my own, and I'm not being introduced as somebody else's daughter or granddaughter, but I'm being introduced as the co-founder of a company that I have created. So I think that I always wanted to do something different. I always wanted to be known for something apart from my family, and that does obviously become a little bit difficult, because you come from this family that is so well known, and it's natural to say that why would you not just do enter Bollywood or whatever. But I think that for me, the answer is that it would have been too easy, and I'm always up for a challenge. I always wanted to do something different. I didn't want my life to just be easy. I wanted to hustle. I wanted to work. I wanted to know what it felt like to be financially independent and start a business, grow a business. I wanted to learn all of those things. So I think that is why I chose entrepreneurship instead of acting. And I also would have been a horrible actor. So I think I saved everyone a lot of time, because I don't think that I have the talent and the dedication that it requires to be an actor. And I think it's a great, job that everyone aspires to be. But I think there's so much that people don't really see off the screen. And I think if you're not 100% passionate about it, then you definitely shouldn't venture into it. And I was never passionate about it. I never wanted to pursue it as a career. So yeah.
And does it ever affect your work? Because I think when you come from a place of privilege, right, people tend to discount all the hard work that you put into, creating a product, creating a business. And I think all the conversations that I've had with you, I know that you have that.
I think she froze. Wait, is she frozen for everyone else, or is it just me? Okay, I got scared.
I thought I froze, so I was checking.
Oh my God. Wait,
Anyways, while we wait, it's so funny. We're talking about this vlog which you had started when you did, and I remember seeing those pictures you had taken when you had started. And a friend of yours that actually posted it on Facebook. So I had actually seen you when you had started, the story that you were saying that people discovered me through those posts. I actually had seen you through those posts that time, just some 11 what is self?
Gossip can be used to your advantage, you know.
We had like some common friend or something, and that's how I actually saw it. I remember this so distinctly. So when you were
Hey guys,
describing,
while Tashi's locked out, I'm just going to take over. I think she's got some issue with her connection, but yeah. Sorry. So Navya, you were saying, I think Tashi was trying to ask you, and we did hear when we spoke to you, right? We did hear, how you very systematically, pragmatically went about creating Aara Health, and your journey. You've kind of plotted it, planned it really well, and we'd love to hear a little bit about that. What prompted you to start Aara Health, and how have you?
So Aara actually was started in the middle of the lockdown. So, agreeing with what Devika said, it was a very unusual time to start a business. I was actually finishing my last semester of college in March, which is when I co-founded it. I have 3 other co-founders. And I think we started it because we realized that as 4 young women living in cities in India, we felt that it was so difficult for us to get answers to basic healthcare questions that should be easily accessible and spoken about. We all face problems going to doctors, visiting gynecologists, and having difficulties opening up about sexual health and, these things that, women are in general very stigmatized, and it's a huge taboo topic to talk about menstruation and menopause and birth control. But I think these are really important topics and conversations that need to be had because it can prevent so much of what we see happening today in our country. And I think that is what really prompted us to start it. We started simply through our Instagram and our website, where we just wanted to talk about these issues on a more open, platform and really not be quiet about it. So we started posting a lot around birth control and sexual health and learning about all these things. And I don't think that at that moment there was any other outlet for women to really go to learn and get educated, not just about the topic, but also have an opportunity to interact with doctors about it and really get quality medical information. And so I think it came from a very personal point where we felt that we needed these solutions ourselves. And that's what makes it so easy to grow a business, especially where you're building a product for yourself. Like, I'm essentially doing this for other girls like me, my friends, who always we always talk about how difficult it is as young women to get access to products and information, especially around feminine health. So I think it becomes a lot easier when you're designing solutions for yourself, because you know exactly what is missing in the market and what is needed. So I think that was, why we started Aara.
I think I can give you. Hi guys, I'm back. Sorry, I got disconnected for a little bit. I can give you a proof of concept, Navya, because when we of course asked our community and the Lxme members sort of to ask questions from all the panelists, and we got a lot of questions. But for you, most of the women were talking about how do I handle stress, how do I handle anxiety, and a lot of very medical related questions. And I was like, Navya is not a doctor, she's founded Aara.
It's actually funny. A lot of my friends now, when they're sick or they have a question, they'll message me, and I keep telling them that I'm not, an expert. I'm not a medical professional. I don't have the capacity to give you this advice, but I can share resources with you and refer you to people that may be able to give you the right advice.
But yeah, definitely. I think coming back to my question, I think I was talking about how, when you come from a place of privilege, people tend to discount all the hard work that you put in building a business for yourself. Through your journey, do you, and more so as a young woman, right? Have you had any instances where you've actually, talking to vendors or potential partners, have you faced any of such discrimination, if I may call it so?
Yeah, I mean, I think with privilege comes responsibility. And I think that if you are in a position of privilege, you have to understand that you have responsibility to really, everyone's looking at you and watching what you're doing, and you have to be a reflection of what you're trying to create in the future. And I always try to say that, people will always judge you and say that, oh, you're coming from a position of privilege. Why are you starting your own business? You have all this money that you can invest. And I do get a lot of people asking me things like that. And to answer that simply, I also have 3 other co-founders, so it's not entirely my business, and we actually have self-funded the whole thing. I was very against asking my family for money. I wanted to really build this and grow it from the bottom up on my own. So all 4 of us actually have bootstrapped on this for a year now, and we haven't raised any outside funds, whether it's from family and friends or even like early stage investors. So I mean, knowing that we've self-funded it, we obviously are very, very careful about how we manage our finances, because we want to make sure that we're cutting costs, keeping them low, especially with the pandemic, having really disrupted our entire supply chain. And talking to vendors and suppliers in India, firstly, in general, is a big headache for anybody who's in this manufacturing space. Trying to negotiate and talk to your vendor is probably one of the hardest things I've had to do, but I think I wouldn't have learned how to do it unless I founded this company. But I think especially in the healthcare space in India and the tech space, it's a very male dominated industry and field. There are very, very few female founders, especially in the health tech area. So we've faced our own, we've seen a lot of times when we speak to vendors and when we are like talking to suppliers or even investors, they're often very surprised that we have financial knowledge, which to me is a little crazy, because why would we not have that knowledge? We've been educated, we studied in school, we know how to manage finances. So that is definitely something I've experienced. Speaking to my manufacturer, he thinks that I don't understand what a minimum order means, and how it's like you're constantly being mansplained by people, and it's frustrating sometimes. But I think that it's always better to give off, that like people should always never know what you're truly capable of. And I think that that's what we never really waste our time trying to say that we know what we're talking about. It's more about the final product. And I think for us, it's more that we don't care about this discrimination, as long as we're building a business that is causing some kind of social impact and our product is of quality and it's doing well. I think that is way more than trying to justify how much knowledge we have and trying to explain to people that we're better than what you think. I think your work should speak. I think your work should definitely speak for you.
Right. I think you are, of course, building a product for women, and so is Manasi, right? Manasi, I think I find your story extremely inspiring as to how and when you decided to start Pink Legal. I think I would really like for you to share it with everybody.
Okay. Hi, Tashi. So, see, basically, I have always been passionate about women's rights and gender equality, like even through law school. And I always wanted to, like, as a law student, I realized that although we are aware of the laws and there are so many laws out there for women, most women don't know their legal rights. And we conducted a survey and among urban educated women and found that almost 90% of them answered that they don't know their legal rights. And this was quite a surprising statistic. So I always had something like this in my mind. But what really gave me the impetus to, take that plunge and actually do something about it was when I faced a personal incident in about 2018 or in 2017. So I'm from Hyderabad, and I was driving home from work one day at night, and my car met with a small accident with another car right in the city center at a signal. And these two boys came out of that car. They blocked my car. They came and they started like banging on my window and trying to open the door. And they broke both my side view mirrors, and they were like, showing me the middle finger. And they were like really, really aggressive. But luckily, I had the presence of mind to take a picture of their number plate. And I didn't get out of my car. I made sure I got home safe. And the next day, I was obviously very, very furious, because I was like, how can these people in the middle of this, in the city center think that they can get away with this? Like, look at the male entitlement that they possess. So I decided to do something about it. Although my family and friends were, of course, coming from a space of like, how the typical Indian society works. They're like, okay, you're safe now, so leave it. Like, why take a risk? Why go and do something about it? But I said, if being a lawyer, if I don't do something about it, then there is no hope for, people who are not even aware of their rights. And plus, it will send such a wrong message to these two men that they can do anything like this.
They can get away with it. Right.
Yeah. So then the very next day I went and I filed a police complaint. And, I was as clueless as anybody else, because it was my first time in the police station as well. But I knew the law, I knew what sections I have to file the complaint under, and I was generally aware of the police procedures. Plus, they knew I'm a lawyer, so they took me more seriously. And this whole personal experience kind of made me understand how intimidating it can be for a woman to go to a police station and file a complaint. And in fact, for most, for like the first step towards addressing your legal rights is usually going and filing a police complaint. So when the first step itself has such a barrier, then how are we going to access further our legal rights? So that is why I decided that, we need a platform which explains to women all their legal rights in a language that they can understand. So it should be like your friend is telling you what your rights are.
Right.
And not a textbook, which is so confusing, so complicated, and so intimidating that you don't even want to open it. And that is why, when we were designing Pink Legal and we were drafting the content and everything, it went through multiple rounds. I would keep sending it to all my friends who are not lawyers and tell them that, read the whole thing. And if you have to read even one line twice to understand what it meant, tell me, because that means that, it's not simple enough. So that's how we made our content like really, really simple and very straightforward in language that, in the language that we speak. And even the way that our platform is designed, we wanted it to look like a glossy magazine so that, although law is very boring, it shouldn't feel intimidating. It should feel friendly and comforting. And so that was the whole, journey towards launching Pink Legal.
Right. And Mansi, currently, if I'm not wrong, you're, of course, continuing with your advocacy and you also take care of Pink Legal. It's sort of your side hustle. You don't devote your complete time into it, right? Do you have a plan in mind? And a lot of people actually balance and juggle between their full-time jobs plus having, a side business. At what point would you decide that, okay, you know what, now I am ready to sort of devote all my time and attention to Pink Legal and take it up full-time?
Yeah, so it is. So actually, I think I'm going step by step. So when I was, launching Pink Legal and when I launched it, I was working 2 other jobs, and then Pink Legal was my third thing, like a side hustle. And
side hustle.
Yeah, it was like side hustle. Then last year I graduated to the process where now I have just like my own practice, and then I have Pink Legal, so which obviously gives me a lot more flexibility in terms of timing, schedule, and planning out my day. So I hope, I'm really looking forward to the day when Pink Legal reaches that stage where, it needs my time full time, because it's grown that big enough that I can't continue with my commercial law practice anymore, and I have to leave it and, join Pink Legal. But obviously, one of the main factors would be finances, because, the reason that I could start Pink Legal and dedicate so much time to it. Oh, I thought we lost Tashi in the middle.
No, I'm here.
So I was saying the reason I could, launch Pink Legal and dedicate time to it is because I have my commercial practice going on. So I'm financially stable and I have my income to sustain my lifestyle and everything. So when Pink Legal reaches the stage where it is able to sustain me and my lifestyle and plus sustain itself and, grow, that is when I think I will decide to take the plunge and maybe, but I really like my commercial law practice as well. So
why not do both?
Yeah, I would.
No, but I think, Mansi, I must say, I find it very inspiring, the platform that you're building. I think along with personal finance, even women rights and, knowing your law for women is extremely important and something which is not really, again, it's not top of mind because we just feel like it's okay. And we just sort of, a lot of things we just tend to put under the carpet and move on. So yeah, I think it's really commendable. Now, since we're talking about entrepreneurship, I think I really want to take up the topic of funding, right? And fundraising, because and I think all of you over here, once you sort of reach a stage where you know that your business is ready to sort of, take off, where you reach that inflection point, I think you do start looking out for funds from VCs. So Neha, you have already been through that journey, right? And I think the talk in the town is that it's actually very difficult for women founders to sort of raise funds. How has your experience been?
Yeah, so I actually saw Alina and Navya sort of nod and say, yeah. But honestly, and sort of, diverse opinion on this, I actually haven't faced negative bias when it comes to fundraise. And that's, I think, great news, right? Because I got into it thinking that there is going to be difficulty in raising funds. But eventually I realized that it is actually not about gender. It's just about the product that you're building and the scale and your plain simple execution, right? So fortunately, maybe I have been in the sort of more sorted sort of part of women entrepreneurs who've sort of had it maybe easy. Of course, it's been super tough fundraising, but I don't think that it has been tough because of gender
Being
has
a woman.
play.
Right. Right. I think that's a great thing. That means like, the entire ecosystem is becoming more inclusive for women. Alina, since you were nodding, do you have any experience? Have you had talks around this, about raising funds for Social Media Dissect? What are your thoughts on this? Sorry, Alina, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So Social Media Dissect is actually bootstrapped and we're not looking at raising funds, but because is very tight knit and we cover a lot of people that get funded and how they're funded and all of that. And because I talk to a lot of other founders, women founders from my industry, it is a very different scenario because it's a very cutthroat, competitive and strenuous industry where you're creating content, where you're delivering, where you have deadlines, clients, all of that. And when women founders actually pitch, and if they're alone, they don't have co-founders, they don't have somebody else on the panel that is male, it becomes difficult to get funding because the investors don't really then push to having a single woman founder getting funded by them. And this is majorly because like I said, there are a lot of clients and stakeholders involved in what we are doing, and because the industry is such that it is so cutthroat, they will ask you questions. Like I personally had questions from clients saying that, are you married, and that when are you planning to start a family? And that for me is so irrelevant of them asking me, and then asking me the age of all of my employees, which is a very young group of people. So for me, that is like a step taken back. Like, why are you asking me such irrelevant questions of?
Yeah, because I don't think they would ever ask like a male founder, co-founder, whoever that, when are you planning to get married? I think that would be really odd. It's unheard of.
It doesn't matter, but when it's a female, they definitely like ask you. And I know people who have not got funded because of the kind of journey they take. Now, in my case, I support a lot of mental health, and I say that this is a work-life balance you're supposed to have. I mean, on the platform out there. Clients are very apprehensive. Like they'll be like, oh my God, what if I need some creative at 10 o'clock? Where are you going to be? You're not going to be available. I have lost out on a lot of clients and I'm grateful that I have lost out clients that are like that, because you have to, I came here to make a difference and say that, it is very, and stay away from your phone. And if there is something trending, it's okay if somebody else takes care of it. I mean, somebody else will look into it. But clients and investors, at least here in this space, don't look at it as then. They see that, okay, if you're married, you have to run a household, or if you have children, you're going to be busy doing something else, because this is not the only thing that you're doing. You won't be able to churn out the business and the numbers and the benchmark that you're supposed to hit. And that I feel like is a drawback I've seen people and women in our industry face.
Right. To add to that, Tashi, so I completely agree, right? If you look globally, right, 6.5% of women startup founders constitute to the total funding that got generated, right, last year. So of course there is a gap. No one's sort of saying that there isn't a gap, right? But what I'm trying to say is the fact that if your product is great, if you have great execution, if you're actually doing a great job of addressing the market size and scaling up, right, then then it really does not matter about the gender, right? And then it's choosing the right investor. So for me, if somebody on the other side is asking these questions, that means that investor is not a right fit for me, right?
Correct.
Now, given the fact that there are more women on the other side, right, we've got funded by multiple funds where it's actually led by women, right? And that's really a key change area, right? Now you sort of see people on the other side who are women, who empathize, who understand where we come from. And I think
Right.
that's part of the change that we also need to do, together with them.
Correct.
Absolutely.
It's a mindset change that needs to come in.
I think Devika would really agree with this, right? And Devika, you've also been through the journey of getting funds for Love 15 and also the Wedding Brigade.
So I kind of agree with what Neha has to say, in the sense that, I mean, of course, like she said, right, there is a gap, we know it. But the fact is that things are changing. And I think sometimes during the fundraise process, women are asked questions. And I think that's also because we are the first generation of women, particularly saying in India, we're the offspring of the housewife generation, right? Like, largely the women or our mothers are people who completed their education, but a career was not their priority. We're the people who have come in where the career is a priority. And I think people, we're going to be the proof in the pudding that if we take it seriously, then the generation ahead is never going to be asked these questions. So, for example, like, when in olden times, think like a grandmother would not complete her college and might just get married halfway, and they might not take education that seriously because of that. But then by the time our parents' generation came in, most of our moms, I can just take an assumption, probably finished college. And that's why you wouldn't take that assumption that, oh, they're not going to like follow through with their education. And I think that's what happens with investors, where they, I think, need to see more female founders get funded, and also not let the female part of it play any role in how they actually run their business. And that actually is completely up to us. I get that the questions can be like really disconcerting, and I think that it can be extremely offensive as well, and I respect that. But I think there's only so much you can do about it, right? Like, you can feel bad about it, but I think the change is going to come in how we take it ahead. This is something that I remember having a discussion with an investor about, and they said eventually you're investing in the person as well as the business, right? If your product is great and the individual seems solid, then it makes business sense for us to invest in you. So you need to actually show it through your business, show it through the way you're building your team, and that's really important. Also, another thing what ends up happening, I think, which Alina kind of alluded to, and a lot of us, maybe because we're quite young, might have faced, is actually a lot of ageism, right? Like, I think Alina brought it up in terms of like the St. Regis situation, and I think sometimes that happens in the fundraising process as well, where because you're so young, they're just like, oh, this person just doesn't seem to know. And maybe young and a woman, maybe that combination sometimes is the issue, but I think it's sometimes more the youth that they're not fully trusting of,
Right.
rather than the female bit of it. So, like, Neha said, at the end of the day, it's about like finding the right investor. You have to find the person who's looking at you and your business with the right lens, and that's, I think, that's the approach to take.
Right. And I think we are bringing about the change, and we also have to then drive change in the ecosystem, right? So, like I said, even if we are being asked these questions, I think it's up to us to also change their mindset through what we're building.
Navya said when she her vendors, right, who like were, let's say, disregarding things, or like, oh, mansplaining. She's like, I'm not going to take that seriously. Like, fine, okay, ask me questions. I'm just going to let my work do the talking. And I think that's
right.
Yeah. No, so in fact, something that I did, so I actually did manage to raise a round of funding back in 2015. And I was very, very young. So I did get a lot of questions. This was for my e-commerce business. And I got a lot of questions. Pretty much 90% of them were, when do you get married? When do you plan to have kids? In fact, a few people even knew that I was dating somebody who didn't live in India. So they said, what's going to happen to your business once you're married? Because, investors, they'll go into like every single
Right.
you. And I think I took it very, very negatively at that time. And it really, it sort of brought my morale down, because I felt like they were questioning the female segment of me. But frankly, a couple of learnings, right? So one learning is that clearly Neha has successfully raised a round of funding, or I mean, a couple actually, and after a fair amount of time that I did, and clearly the ecosystem has evolved. So that's great.
Right.
Second is obviously like any funding, it involved so many pitches and so many investors. But something that I kind of ensured I did was keep in touch with everyone who happened to ask me those questions, and regularly send them updates and success reports and press articles. So because like you said, right? It's in our hands to change that mindset.
Right.
And sometimes the questions they're asking are valid, right, Devika? Like exactly like you said, I don't blame anyone, and they're very, very valid questions. But my guess is, my estimation is that their approach is not the
Yeah.
most
How
ethical.
they
Their
see
approach
it as
is not
value.
so rightful. You know, as women, that's the thing about us, right? I mean, we're so damn good. We just want to give everyone the freaking benefit of doubt, which is also what we're doing in this conversation, because we're so much more heart than mind. Um, and I feel like this is also a reason why sometimes women at work are taken advantage of, because we always give them or anyone the benefit of doubt. I
Right.
also feel like maybe I would sometimes, uh, pretend or assume that they weren't asking from a good place, because that would just make me, fight harder in this general fight for having equal opportunity.
I feel like Neha is just like, that's not me. I don't know what you girls are talking about.
No, no, not at all. I think in the last 7 years of the journey that fraternity has seen, from like starting, bootstrapping, raising, then exiting, getting acquired. I think it's been
Exiting.
all of this. It's been all of this and more.
Right. I think, Alina, while I was talking to you, I found it very interesting when you were telling me about how you read Lean In, right? And that sort of changed your perception.
So yes, so when I read Lean In, which is a book by Facebook CEO Sheryl Sandberg, and she does talk about women entrepreneurship, and there was this whole segment of when she spoke about the imposter syndrome, which I believe I have been struggling with all my life. And when I read that book was actually when I found a term, first of all, for it, and realized that, oh my God, that's so much of what I do. Everything that I am achieving, I am crediting to things and circumstances and individuals around me. Like I will say, oh my God, I've reached here, I've done this because, my husband has been so supportive, which he has been, or my family has been so supportive. And you hear this from girls all the time. You don't hear it from men as much. And the book said exactly those words that was happening with me and around me. And I realized that, this has to change. I have to constantly tell myself that, yes, there are people that have supported me, and there are circumstances that have put me over here, but it's a lot of individual hard work of mine that has brought me over here. And that was an interesting conversation, opened my eyes, that book, when I read that, okay, it's not just me, it's her, it's a Facebook COO that went through it. It's a lot of women. And I read about it more, read about how we can possibly overcome something like that. And now I openly talk about it, so women stop doing this where they feel like, okay, there is something wrong that they're doing by achieving something, they're giving something up, and that's not what we should do. And we should ideally credit ourselves and take that credit, even in terms of financially. Like I spoke to you when you asked me,
Right.
do we pay ourselves, and when did we start paying ourselves, and all of that. I realized that it's so important to give the due credit to ourselves for what we do.
Absolutely. I think this also then, like you're talking about financially, right? It actually then trickles down to also why women find it so uncomfortable to talk about money, to ask for money, to ask for a raise, to negotiate. It's just that, the inherent feeling that, okay, do I actually deserve it? Like, should I ask for money? So I think also, which is where a lot of these women communities come into play, right? Giving a safe space for women to talk about all of this, and also sort of collectively growing together. I think now I'm going to come to my favorite part of this discussion, which is managing your personal finances. So Masoom, I'm going to start with you. Now that you've mastered the art of making money, have you mastered the art of growing your own money?
Yes, very, very, very
Wow.
late.
Fantastic.
Is it just me? Can't hear Masoom.
Oh, thank God. I thought it was me. Again.
You can't hear me?
No, now I can.
Okay,
yes.
yeah. It says my internet connection is unstable. Is this okay now? Can you hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I actually started my journey and I've actually been making money for a very long time now. And I have so many regrets involved, because I just didn't take care of that money. I didn't have enough money conversations. I didn't invest it. Uh, I just didn't educate myself about money. I think that's the core problem here, right? Is that I didn't
Absolutely.
understand what needed to be done about money, and I was too afraid to have that conversation because I was just embarrassed at the amount I did not know about it. And I feel like it even today, even when I actually started having the conversation, it's quite embarrassing because I feel like you constantly find yourself in places where, and I'm sure everyone here will agree that we're all women that, we're independent, we're strong, we're powerful, we have our own businesses. We don't like it when we don't know something. And when everyone is talking about money conversations, money topics, and for me, I don't know how many of you would agree, this would be by the male counterparts in my life, right? And I'd always see them talking about money and where they're investing their money, and the money solution. And I hated not knowing about it. So it obviously started off with, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to embarrass myself, because I have nothing to contribute. And that slowly kind of went on to that, if I don't start my money learning journey right now, I'm not going to have anything to contribute to this conversation for the rest of my life. Right, that's number one. And then number two was obviously, I was making the money and I didn't know what to do about it. So I would always go up to the male figures in my life, which is my dad and my brother, and I'd be like, what do I do with my money? Or do you think this is a good option? And then it just kind of started, it just kind of started pissing me off that why do I need to turn to the male counterparts in my life? Why am I not asking my mom or my sister-in-law, or my grandmother about what I should do with my money? Like, there's obviously this massive gap that's involved here. And I couldn't help but ask my question, how I'm going to kind of break that link, right? Like, you know what they say, that there's always, in a poor family, there's always one person who changes the entire lineage. And very similarly, it's because money is very family relative. There will have to be a woman who will have, in a certain family, who will have to break the chain, who will have to learn about money, who will have to know how to manage money and be able to break that chain for the next upcoming generations. So yeah, sorry, I forgot the question.
What was the aha moment? I think you already answered it when you realized that your father and your husband, brother have been taking care of the money. Because when I think all of you are so independent, you're raising funds. Neha, you've like built a 114 crore company. Do you grow your own money? Or do you think to a certain level, you're still dependent on, someone else to grow your money for you?
Yeah, so I think for the longest time, I was not taking interest in managing money, right? I was all about, hey, let's be tax efficient, right? So it was
The
all
bare minimum, yeah.
yeah, like the bare minimum to just sort of try to manage your money.
Right.
Sort of saying that, hey, you know what? How do I multiply? How do I sort of create value? And I read
Right.
somewhere, right? What is financial independence, right? And this particular author talked about financial empowerment. And financial empowerment is basically one's ability to evaluate, understand today's financial needs that you have as well as future financial needs that you have, and
Right.
manage it yourself rather than expecting somebody to manage it, right? And I really do believe that it is not about what you're earning currently which you need to manage, right? But it's also about, okay, futuristically having a contingency fund, having XYZ, right? Knowing your financial needs of today and tomorrow, and being able to manage it yourself independently, right? And I think for me, similar to what Masoom was saying, right, it was always the male figures in the family, and it was comfortable, right? Because they did that, that's what they spoke about, that's what they did. So finance is always a boring subject, right? And you don't want to sort of spend that time, right? But I
It
do
seems complicated.
correct, it seems complicated, but it is not, right? It is absolutely not complicated. I think it's a mindset sort of a change. And I
Right.
really believe that unfortunately urban Indian women are not doing that, and rural women are doing that a lot more, right? And that's actually really, really surprising, right? Urban income level for women has grown 100%, right? It has doubled in the last 10 years, but financial literacy for urban women in India is the lowest in the world, right? And I think that's just sort of something that, we really need to change about. And it's a mindset change, right? Because we earn our own money, but we don't like to manage it.
Completely. So, today only 33%, talking about urban women, only 33% women today actually take independent investment decisions. Rest, everyone is dependent that, okay, my husband is taking care of it, my father is taking care of it. I think, and we're all very comfortable, right? The problem is that we're all sort of in the same boat that, oh, okay, it's all right. She also doesn't take care of her money. She also doesn't take care of her money. So it's okay. But I think collectively now is when we should try to change that. And I think I do see that happening. All right. I think let's do a roundup now. I'll start with Navya. Navya, what are the 3 lessons for all the women out there who are now planning to set up their own business? What are the 3 lessons that you would have for them, or 3 things that they should keep in mind before taking a call to start up and set up their own business?
This is a hard question. I have a lot of things that I would share with women entrepreneurs, but
you can write a blog about it later. But right now, yeah.
But from purely, I'll start from a purely business perspective, monetary, financial. I would say something that I've learned growing a startup is that cash is king, and this is something my father always says to me. Is that ensuring that you have a positive cash flow in your company is one of the most important fundamentals of building a good business, and that is something that you definitely should be mindful of, especially when you're starting off and growing a product, going through different phases of product development. It's important to always have a positive cash flow in your company. That's something that I've learned in the last 1 year. From I think other advice I would say is that this is at least something that I've learned through this journey, is that you have to be willing to say no. Don't over promise on your product, don't over promise on your service, whatever you're offering. Do what you can within the means that you have, but do it well. Don't try to boil the ocean. It's okay to take your time with your product and your business. And we have taken a year to launch our e-commerce platform, which is going to be coming out in a month, and we had a lot of people saying that, why are you taking so long? 1 year is too long to take for product development. But I think it's okay. I think it's fine to take your time, because you're putting in that time and effort into building the perfect product, one that's going to be of quality, one that's going to be effective, backed by science, and these things take time. So I would say never compromise on your product or your service because of time or because of over promising. And I think that's one of also the biggest ways of winning trust with your consumer, is to take it slow and do what you can within the means that you have, and do it really, really well. And the last thing I would say is that be more confident in yourself. You may not know everything walking into this job, walking into starting a company. I definitely had no ideas about, how companies are registered in India, how to pay GST, how to file for GST. But these are things that you learn on the job. And I think it's completely fine if you don't come from a financial background or a healthcare background. I studied technology in college, so I definitely have not come from a healthcare background at all. But I think you learn so much more than you think on the job, and just be confident enough to take that first step, because all the knowledge you feel that you don't have right now, you will learn that as you go along. So I would say that just be brave enough to take that first step, and then everything else will just happen on its own.
I think that's great. And also be financially prepared while you're taking that step.
Yeah, definitely. I think every woman should be, financially prepared. And I was always taught that from a very young age, because I actually went to boarding school when I was 12. So before my parents sent me, they were very particular about, me being able to manage my finances. And my father was always very clear, he's that person. He's like, you can't get a car unless you know how to change a tire. You can't live on your own unless you learn how to manage your finances, unless you know how to pay your electricity bill, your rent. And, living alone now in New York, I feel that I wouldn't have gotten to this point if I didn't get that from my father and those lessons, and if he hadn't ingrained managing money from a very young age.
Great. Devika, let's come to you.
Navya said this right now. I was trying to think, and there's so many things that you want to say.
Great. So next time what we'll do is we'll do separate sessions with each one of you, so you can have all the time to all that you need.
Bit really simple. Your question was that what are the things to keep in mind before starting up, right?
Yes.
I think the first thing is that if you're thinking of starting up, don't overthink things. I think as someone, entrepreneurs, people who are planning businesses tend to get a little indulgent with being in the idea stage and like thinking and planning and prepping. They like to stew in their ideas and get like the perfect thing. And I think all of this happens without actually any execution. I think you should, if you've got it about 60% there, just do it. I think doing it is super important.
Sure.
You figure it out on the job, right? Until you put it out there, you're anyway not going to have half the answers. As intelligent as you are, and as much as you think it through, you need to put it out there, and then you keep on iterating on that. I think, like, Navya already said this about like having a business plan. Have a business plan in the sense, from a financial perspective, even if you feel like, oh, I don't understand it, get a friend to help you understand it. Find someone who can guide you through what a P&L looks like. And even if you feel like I'm not even at a P&L stage, I'm just doing like a home baking business, fine. Then like learn how to open an Excel sheet and write down your costs and revenues and profits. But basically inculcate that concept of like having all of your financial information at the forefront of your business plan as well. So have a business plan, know what your costs are, acknowledge them. They shouldn't be coming out of your pocket every single time. You have to be very disciplined about that. Treat your business like you work for your business. I think that's the third thing, right? So remember, you have to be at the service of your business. You and your business may be one. You might feel like it's your baby, but I think it's very important to draw that boundary, because when you do work in service of it, it obviously gives you that you do it with a slightly different attitude as well. You also don't take things so personally, and you're also able to draw the correct and healthy boundaries to do what's best sometimes for the business and not necessarily for you, or like something that's what you feel like doing.
Right.
I think one last thing I would say is, like, you don't have all the answers. It's okay. Like, you're not going to have all the answers ever.
You learn on the way. Right. Mansi, let's hear from you.
So, I mean, it's been so wonderful hearing all the, tips that Devika and Navya have given so far. But what I would say from my personal journey, one would be, I think entrepreneurship really takes a lot out of you, especially in the initial stages, because obviously for you to become sustainable, or, for the enterprise to become sustainable, it does take a lot of effort and time. So make sure that you are prepared for that, and it's something that you feel passionate about, because if you don't, then you'll find it very difficult to sustain yourself for a longer period of time. It's easy to just think that I'm going to start something and then not understand what goes into it. So that is one thing. And the second thing would be, one of the things about, or like, everybody maybe who's looking at this panel right now must be thinking that it's really glamorous to have this life as an entrepreneur and to manage your own money, but it's actually not as glamorous as it looks like, because there's a lot of hard work that goes behind it. So also be prepared for that kind of hard work, and it's really your baby, right? So you have to do whatever it takes to keep it afloat. It's not a job where you can say, okay, I'm done with my hours, and then beyond this, it's not my responsibility. So that is one thing that you really need to be prepared for. And third, I think, which all of us would agree and would probably have in common to give as an advice, would be money management, because that is something that is, again, very key to an enterprise. Your passion and your dedication can only take you to a certain level, but after a point of time, if you have to think of where your next meal is coming from, you will obviously have to start looking at alternatives, and you can't give your 100% to your enterprise. So make sure that you learn your money management and you make your enterprise sustainable. Or if your enterprise is a non-for-profit, then at least you have some other source of income which gives you stability and sustainability. So I probably these are the three things that I would say. And I would want to get on a call with each and every woman over here on this panel, because I feel like so much I can learn from them. I started my journey and I learned something.
That's great. Alina, what about you? There was a very interesting question, Alina, that was addressed to you, which was basically, do you feel very confident that you're financially independent?
Of course, and I think it makes so much of a difference when you pay your own bills and you sustain your own lifestyle. I think it's a whole different feeling of success when you're doing it yourself, and especially when you are, a woman trying to do everything yourself. But my top three things, and I would relate them to finances for this platform and for young women out there, would be number one, get yourself educated on things. So and I think platforms like Lxme are places where you need to go to understand this whole structure. So even if you don't know everything out there, I think learning it is important and knowing about it is important. So that's one thing I would say to young girls out there or female entrepreneurs starting out, that understand what finances are, what are your options, all of that.
Guys, this was not a planned product placement. Let me just put it out there. Yeah.
Organic. No, I genuinely mean it. There are so many platforms out there that kind of teach you. You need to learn. You need to get yourself educated as a founder, or starting your own journey. You need to find out about all of these things. Secondly, and this I believe for finances and for otherwise also, doing it yourself makes a lot of difference, like application wise. So even if you have an accountant and you already have a CA that is managing, or your family male counterparts, everybody is doing it for you, you still need to have certain knowledge and apply it yourself, do your accounts yourself, do the basics yourself, so that you know what has to be told to somebody else when they are doing it for you. And this applies to not only financials, for everything else in the business also. You don't have to be an expert at everything. That's why we have different people handling what we're doing. But I think knowing the basics helps a lot when other people are doing it, so you can give your inputs to them. And the third thing I would like to say, when it comes to like money and planning, all of that, I think it's very important to take risks. And I think all of us here are taking a risk by even starting out. But at every point in all of our journeys, there's like, should you do this? Should you take up this client? Should you do this launch? Whatever it is, it's always a risk because you don't know how it will go. But you need to kind of take that risk and have faith in yourself, and then consistently keep doing it to see results.
That's great. Neha, for you, I have a different question. Any money mistakes that you made in the past that you think that if you had a chance right now, you would actually go back and, change that or do something differently? This was not discussed. It's a surprise, right?
You're bringing on the spot.
I told you I'm going to throw one surprise question at you.
You did. Yeah. In your defense, you did tell me that. Yeah. No, I think any financial mistake, I think I agree to what Alina sort of said, right? I do think that you need to get complementary, sort of skill sets in your startup very early on. So, for example, if I feel that I'm not strong in finance, for example, right, or tech, right, so I need to basically get a complementary skill set, right? And that's where I feel that me and my co-founder Jayam, right, we're very complementary in terms of being able to manage what we sort of do as Fitternity, right? I feel that a lot of those gaps which we could have filled in early on would have been much sort of faster and would have probably helped us achieve faster sort of growth.
Right. All right.
Just one thing that I want to share. It was something that I think all of us will relate to. So somebody got asked on the panel saying that, what is entrepreneurship, right? And this person said that, entrepreneurship is like seeing somebody ride a lion, right? And it looks like so glorious, right? So let's say Masoom is riding a lion and we're like, oh my God, so beautiful, so glorious. Look at her and she's got it all together. And Masoom is on the lion and thinking, oh my God, how the hell did I get on the lion? And how do I get off the lion? And what do I do, right? And that's entrepreneurship. And women entrepreneurship is Masoom doing it while managing a crown, right? And balancing like everything else, right? Which I really felt was like very, very interesting way to put it.
That's quite interesting. Masoom, we had actually a couple of questions, and I think I'm just going to round this up now. The future of content creation. I think a lot of people have asked this question. What do you think is the future of content creation?
More rawness, right? So I think that the lesser it's edited, the more. See, the one thing that I've always said is when it comes to content, right? And this is actually applicable to like everyone here who's on the panel or watching, because no matter what you do, what business you're in, what your job is, or where you work, content is pretty much the foundation of the digital ecosystem right now, and everyone is working in a digital ecosystem. So the most purest form of content is, on a scale of uniqueness, how unique is it? Frankly, every business has competition. If you're launching something today, please don't tell me it doesn't exist already, or something better doesn't exist already, or something with a better team doesn't exist already. The only unique part of that business is actually you, right? You, the promoter, you, the entrepreneur, you, the founder, you, the CEO. And you have to leverage that for your business. And I truly think that this replicated across different forms is the future of content. So the more you're going to be able to portray your uniqueness and in the rawest form possible is what people want to see and is what people are going to relate to. And it's just like the whole world is moving from products to experiences, right? Like if we're talking about platforms, and like if we're looking at all the businesses that all of you actually run today, they're all an experience. Like what Navya does, it's an absolute experience. She's not really selling you a product, but she's enhancing your lifestyle. She's making healthcare more accessible to you, because our priorities have changed as human beings. We don't really care about the products anymore. We want a better way to live, and we're happy to support these different lifestyles and different experiences while getting there. And that's the same thing with content, right? Nobody really wants to look at a product or a very well packaged piece. They just want to look at, they want content to be a human experience.
Great. All right. I think we don't have a lot of time left, although I would love to chat more with you girls. But thank you so much for being a part of this panel. Thank you so much for joining us to UnStereotype with Lxme. And I hope everyone who watched this, you had a lot to learn from these amazing women. And we have a great lineup coming up. We have a lot of live sessions, a lot of inspiring stories, a lot of masterclasses. In fact, Devika is doing a masterclass with us, which is idea to execution and growth. So for all the young women who are thinking of, setting up their business, who think that they have a great idea and they can scale it, then Devika is here to help you. And we have Alina, who's also doing a masterclass with us, which is how to grow your brand digitally. So please keep tuning in. You can join us. There's our landing page on stereotype.lxme.in. You can register, get all details. And yes, thank you so much. Have a very good night. And Navya, you have a good day. And Masoom, you have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you
So much, guys.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.